Oh, Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. We might be having trouble with a quorum if we don't get a few more bodies here.
well, as Jackie said, presumably there's a bunch of people in town hall and they're just not letting us in yet.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi,
Katie.
Jackie. Look at you. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I am surprised anything's working for me. I've had a rough technological day. Which I don't I lost two PowerPoints that I spent hours and hours and hours on, and so
Oh dear. I'm so sorry. Well,
it's
feel
okay.
free to turn off the camera if you need the bandwidth. That's what we do here. So
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
it's good to see you,
Wanted to say
though.
hi.
There they
Oh, there's
are.
Charlie.
You see it? Wait. Probably brilliant. Are you on?
Huh?
Are you on?
I'm working at it.
Katie, can
We've
you hear
got
us?
Charlie in double.
Do you hear us?
Yep.
Okay.
I see Charlie's on the phone and he's with you. So that's kind of awesome.
We couldn't hear you for a while. You couldn't hear us for a while,
All right.
but
I
I'll
think we're
disappear
good.
from being online.
This is what happens when you take a vacation.
Only good things.
Okay, well, let's get the show on the road. It is 5:01 p.m. and I am calling to order the Thursday, April 10th Affordable Housing Advisory Committee meeting. Why don't you go ahead and start with the people in the room?
Don Nielsen here.
Charlie Bertle, member of the committee.
Max, town administrator. And hi, Ed's here too.
Hey, Ed. All right, online we have Jackie Noah, Michael Kukta, and Lois Carlson. Thanks for joining, Lois. How are you?
Good. I'm
Good. Okay. Public comment. Anything in the room?
Nope.
Anything we know of? Okay. All right. Minutes of the March 13th meeting to be considered for approval. Everyone have a
I
chance to
just
look that
noticed
over?
one correction. In item 4C, it should be one roof, not one rood. Otherwise, I would move approval of the minutes.
All right.
Good catch.
Is there a second with that
I'll
repair?
second that motion.
Thanks, John. Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes with one edit, please say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Any? Okay. We have passed the minutes from March 13th. Okay. This agenda will look pretty familiar to those of you who've been in attendance for the past few months. It kind of covering the same territory. We get a little bit further along with it each time. So as we have Ed here, and we all received the email from Jim about what he hopes the new zoning ordinance will do. Why don't you go ahead and further edify us, Ed?
Well, it seems as though there was discussion where you would need a PUD to do this. With the new zone that we're creating, in technical memorandum number 3, section 2 would apply. And that is a subdivision map change, which is much easier to do than the PUD. And so once you figured out what you were gonna do with the parcel, you could divide it up into however many lots you wanted, and it would be a subdivision change, not a PUD, which is pretty simple to do, you know. That's administrative mostly.
Okay.
It's great
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
So is it then mostly based on that it's going to be easier for us as opposed to going through the PUD? Is that the primary motivation for this?
Well, and that would be the part of technical memorandum number 3 that applies to what you're doing. A PUD does not. You know, it's, we just did a subdivision map change for Hartsel in Wayne's World, and that's how we figured out how to get that accomplished, was through that map change, not the PUD. And that was the first time it's been done on the island. I had to actually create applications for it. We always had a fee for it, but we've just never done it. So.
All right. Questions?
So Ed, this is Michael. I've got a question, because the way I read PUDs, we could still basically do anything that we could get agreement on with, you know, the TPC or whoever. And PUDs are allowed in what is the current zoning.
Right, it's just a much bigger process, and the subdivision map change is what's $1,000 less for the application. And it's much easier to get through without all the other stuff. The plan unit development, there's the green space in the parks areas and things that are required in that too. Whereas you're just separating into one big parcel into a lot of small parcels. And that's what the subdivision map change should be for.
So that could not be done under current zoning.
Yes, it can. Yes, it's in our technical memorandum number 3, just like it is. No matter what, that parcel has to change zones, because right now it's government or institutional, and there's no housing allowed on that at all. So if you changed it to, say, an R3 and tried to do a PUD, or that's still subject to the same density as the R, you know, whatever zone you changed it to. But with the new AH1 zone that we're changing it to, the density will be whatever we create, because it's a brand new zone. And the subdivision map change is you just parcel off all these different parcels for each individual home. And then it just gets, goes in front of TPC and then the town board for approval, and it's done. It's a much easier dividing than the PUD. And much.
I mean, I appreciate the TPC, you know, coming up with a more affordable approach, and B, something that
This was always in our ordinance.
right.
It's never came up before, so we had to learn how to read the ordinance to figure out what part applies.
So I don't know if this word has filtered back to you or any of the members of the TPC, but my big concern is that by creating this new affordable housing district, we are, for lack of a more graceful term, we are ghettoizing this development, and that's not something we want to do, because we don't believe it will help us get long-term support for this project. And again, the way I read under plan unit development in the zoning code, under number 2, it says a successful applicant for a conditional use permit for a development may be allowed to modify the lot size, setback, and yard requirements of the district for which the project is located. And under government institutional, there's minimal things we would need to worry about as far as those.
So you're thinking we don't even need to change the zone?
Well, that's what I'm asking. I mean, again, I don't have technical memorandum 3 at my disposal, and I just believe that it's possible to do it within current zoning. That's all. I'm just raising the question because I don't know if it's necessary, and I wonder so you've listed some of the advantages. I'm just wondering what the potential downsides are of creating a new district like this.
Well, for one thing, the district would have a sunset clause of 3 years. So that if you didn't utilize that property, it would go back to government. And then with the boards, having the option of extending it. When we created lot sizes and stuff, there are minimum lot sizes, and we used what Charlie gave us for what the initial plans were for the size of the homes and what they had on their drawing. But you could create bigger lots if you want. It doesn't have to be that small. You know, when you draw up your individual lots for your subdivision map, you can make them as big as you want. You know, if you want to have, you know, a bigger home on lots, you make them lots bigger. You know, you're not set to that minimum lot size. That's just what we put in for a minimum lot size so that the homes that Charlie was pursuing would fit on the lots and go from there. But, you know, that's minimum, not maximum lot size. You can make them as big as you want.
Right. And the way I read the zoning ordinance under government institutional, about the only requirement is that the required lot area is 9,600 square feet. And we're clearly going to meet that. And so we could modify yard requirements, we could modify lot size, which in essence gives us the ability to modify density. So again, I have concerns. I'm glad I understand more about it, but I'm just not convinced
I
that
would
it's
have to go back in and look at the government zone and see. Actually, I didn't realize housing was allowed in that.
That was going to be my direct question. Is housing allowed
Yeah, and
in government zoning?
that I didn't think it was.
Okay.
Well, a planned unit development is, so I don't, you know, I'm going to presume that a planned unit development means there can be housing, but I could be completely wrong with that interpretation.
So that is an allowed use in that zone.
Well, planned unit developments are, yes. And so by the definition of a planned unit residential development, housing is allowed. That's the way I'm reading it.
Then you wouldn't have to change the zone at all. We don't even have to touch this in zoning. Although you wouldn't be able to do the easy way with the subdivision map, I wouldn't think.
So
But-
I'm actually interested in hearing a little bit more. You said that you were able to do this you applied these things to Hartzell's property?
No, we started this way before Bob came in with his subdivision. When Charlie came in and started talking about, you know, doing this, and then as long as we're rewriting the zoning ordinance, why not create a zone for that area? You know, so that it makes it easier for you to, you know, smaller lot sizes, you know, things like that. We created a set of ordinances or restrictions just for that, so that you could have a higher density and make it simpler to do rather than going through the planned unit development.
Right. Well, and again, anything that's streamlined is appreciated. I just, yeah, I think when we first heard about the rezoning, with our understanding of it, we were just surprised or curious, and hence the questions about, you know, how to win hearts and minds, I guess, because it seems like an easy thing to, yeah, if it's its own thing that people could point to it and say, this is the only place that this will happen, so we can treat it differently or whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to know what others think about that. Charlie, you were involved in the process more directly. John, Jackie, Lois, all of you.
Well, you know, I think if somebody has gone out of their way to make things easier for me, I'm gonna thank them and make use of it. I mean, it still has to pass the hearings and the rest for the rewrite. And that may well disappear. But I had Dan Noyes give Ed a call and tell him what the dimensions for the lots were, and he kindly set things up to make it work.
Yeah,
And I'm grateful for that.
right.
You're here.
And we're not trying to
Um,
look a gift horse in the mouth, but I agree with Michael. I
Right.
just don't want the other shoe to drop somewhere. Go ahead, Jackie.
Uh,
Oh, I don't want to interrupt you, Charlie. If you need to.
no, speak.
Okay. I guess I'm curious. I'm not sure exactly what the concern is. What I am guessing the concern is that so with this change then it opens the door for other folks to pursue this type of zoning and this condensed kind of population in a smaller area or housing in a smaller area. Is that what the concern is from Katie?
No,
No.
it's
Okay.
that it will probably be the only place on, we'll have very select properties that will be able to apply this particular zoning. And Michael's used the word ghetto and I've used the word ghettoized previously. And when we are trying to please all people with design things, I don't want this to be an easy way to sort of say, oh, well, if we have to invoke that kind of zoning, then no, we're not going to do that here. Does that make sense?
So you're
So it's not
thinking
that
it's
there'll be
gonna
high density all over. It's just, I don't want there to be discrimination.
But you're thinking it's gonna be looked at as a extreme low income ghetto area because of the designated zoning.
Perhaps. It gives people the opportunity, right?
Well, it would be just an impression. It will be what you make it, not what people's impressions are.
I agree. But when we're trying to get things passed, there's a whole lot of resistance, right? And so is this going to be another tool in that arsenal?
Well, then hopefully by August, early September, we'll be having public hearings for rewrite. And I guess if there's opposition to calling it in an affordable housing zone, then that'll go away. But if it's like, hey, that's a good idea, then it'll probably stay.
I hope so, for all the work that you've put in.
Well, it really was just a little bit of thought for our group meeting and how to put things together, but mostly it was through Charlie's input on what we used for the setbacks and the lot sizes and things like that.
Yep.
And Katie, if we come up with a nice plan, we can always get that out in the community this summer.
Yeah.
And to show them what it is that we're talking about. And you can drive the tariff issue instead of being the recipient of the tariff issue. So
Okay.
they
Now we're
can be
talking.
terrific. Yes.
Thank you. I'm in. Okay. All right. Thank you all. I appreciate you hearing me out, hearing us out on that particular topic. Any more questions? Okay. Now my agenda has turned off and we will move along to the next item. Funding opportunities updates. There's actually a bit going on here.
Do we need Ed any longer?
I think Ed may be excused, though it's good to see you.
Nice to see you
Thanks,
guys.
Ed.
I'll be down in May. I'm going to be in Benamor for my stepdaughter's graduation. Maybe
Woohoo!
together that weekend, the 17th of May.
Okay, we'll talk.
Yes.
All right,
Yes,
good
we
to
will.
see you. All right,
Nice to see you guys.
Thank you.
bring your
Thanks, Ed.
friends.
Thank you very, very much.
Yes.
All right. Fenimore, that's really close. Okay. Right. So, where was I? Funding opportunities. So both Charlie, well, actually, John, Charlie, and Michael perhaps all have something. There have been a lot of emails.
Yeah, a lot of emails. Michael's got a lot of them started. I think, John, Mark and I will, end up in the Wisconsin Dells together on the 22nd in the afternoon. We were just talking before the meeting as to what to bring down. Probably need a few copies of the Maxfield report and copies of the land, and I think, Max can probably come up with a letter as to what we've got. Probably the AH1 zoning that we're gonna be working on.
Okay.
I think the chances of catching a fish are gonna be small, but we might learn something.
Small fish are always easy to catch, right?
Yeah, it's hard to get one enough to provide a meal, though. I having practiced
I know.
fishing for the last month. Michael, your thoughts on that meeting?
I just, I think it's an opportunity to get ourselves before developers who presumably, if they're there, they're interested. I have no idea what to expect. Rebecca Giroux is helping organize it. That's how I found out about it. She knows about us, so I'm glad I will have company down there. I think we'll just give it our best pitch. I mean, I think we have a lot of the basics already in place, and we might learn some ideas, or we might learn that we've got people interested. I don't know. It's too good an opportunity to pass up.
What materials do we need for the pitch?
Well, I think you mentioned most of them. I think I should go back and look at what we gave to the town board for a request for them to designate the parcel. We had a pretty good summary of where we were, so that might be useful just as a bit of a script for us to follow. So I'll dig that up and circulate it among the three of you.
Where are we at as far as the loan for infrastructure?
So I think the big hurdle we have right now is we need to have a development partner, and we don't have that. Look through my papers here. Application deadline or application period opens on April 16th. Closes on May 16th. So I don't think we're going to have, I mean, we could get lucky, but I don't know that we're going to have a development partner in place. Plus, I know I was trying to go through all your old emails, Charlie, and, figure out where you've got things costed out. And I don't know if you've made any further progress on any of those other costs that we might be able to cover with infrastructure on an infrastructure loan.
No, all I've got is Arnie's rough stuff. I never did finish bothering Bob enough to get a price for 2 wells. But it's probably going to be helpful in that regard to decide what we might want to put on that lot as far as units go, and then have it priced out. I mean, I've got Arnie's sheet in front of me that he put down, and as far as doing the road, it's $150 a foot. So, and the rest of it,
yeah, I mean,
put together back then.
From what I remember, so roads, sewer, I presume water, lighting, are all costs. So, I mean, if we can at least get a ballpark figure, and has anyone asked, or do we know where the sanitary district is on far as costing out
No,
the sewer
I don't know.
connection?
Michael, the issue about, they just had their meeting last night. I was told, and I don't have the minutes, but I was told they were going to defer the RV site subject because they're doing some work on the existing facility and that new technology may mitigate the need for the RV
Okay.
site, but that was all from Ted Palace prior to the meeting, and I wasn't at the meeting, so
Well, he should know.
yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the town board had asked us for, some specific cost questions and, obviously we know what the gaps are. Those are the answers we would need to get to apply for a loan and step back, in order to get the town board comfortable with where we are to get their permission to apply for a loan. So, the only thing I can see is, so A, we don't have a developer, so that's hurdle number one. Two, we don't have enough costs yet, or enough categories covered yet. The flip side and the good side is that it sounds like they're going to open up another cycle in October, which was not on their original calendar. So I don't know if this is new money that they're planning on, or they're just not getting the speed of response that they expected.
Well, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
we
you-
find out, can you apply for it without committing to the amount? Say if you get approved and you decide not to draw any of it.
Well, I don't think you need to draw any of it if you get approved, but I don't think you're going to get approved unless you have hard numbers.
Mhm.
Yeah, the town is not gonna want an open-ended thing like that.
No, let's see, Mark is currently driving up from Arkansas, so he's probably somewhere around Des Moines at the moment. He's arranging for Dynamic Homes to come out probably last week of April and see what they might have to offer as far as their modular builds go. After that, we probably have enough information to start making some choices as to what things could look like if we're going to be our own developer.
Right.
Let me ask you,
Or use Dan to help us work on developing.
those trees are gonna need to come down regardless of how it's used other than for a park. So, this is a big elephant. What if we took it as in small bites, that if we assume or we come to a consensus that those trees are gonna have to be removed to do anything with that lot? Should we consider getting a bid to at least remove the trees and the stumps? That part needs to be done, am I correct or not?
No,
And
it definitely needs
I
to be
drove by
done.
it today, and those trees are marketable trees. Those aren't junk trees. If I would want to consider, or at least should believe that there's gonna be, with the value of wood going up the way it is recently, that there'll be loggers, because there's several full truckloads of full long sticks. Don't have to be cut into 10-foot sections. That could be hauled out of here from that section right there. And they're really nice pines, real good straight pines. So if you find a logger or a broker who has direct access to those markets, when I cleared my lot, I got $3,500 given to me because of the quality of the oak trees that had to be removed to put my building on it.
You have oak trees. These are red pines.
Hmm.
They're soft.
Yeah.
And talking with Artie, he doesn't see much commercial value in them. I haven't talked to Greg yet to see, he wouldn't want anything like that for his.
No, not for docks.
For his docks. And you gotta haul everything off to a lumber mill.
But here
make it
you'd have
work
enough
pretty hard.
quantity to make that worthwhile.
Could be.
I'm going to interrupt
Don't
and
know.
say maybe some locals could utilize that kind of wood and may buy it. Probably not for like the premium price that you're saying, but there are a couple, 2 or 3 sawmills here on the island,
Yep.
and people may want to cut that up for interior wood paneling, siding, or not siding. I'm sorry, a trim. So just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I mean, I also wonder, would that fall within the possible parameters of the grant? Clearing the land.
That was my reason for asking that question, for that very purpose. When you know there's things that we have to do regardless of what's gonna happen with that lot.
Right.
So, yeah, can we use that as an excuse? Okay, we're gonna cut down the trees, clear the stumps. There you are.
So I don't know if I can look into asking WIDA whether site preparation is considered infrastructure or not. Given that it's a public infrastructure loan, I don't know where they would draw that line. And obviously, any decision on timing, John, I think is up to the town board. I mean, if they think they're willing to go forward with that, they would be the ones making that decision. Yeah, I don't know what to say. There's a lumber company out of Hurley that had been working with the DNR while I was still on the island to try to log all of the properties on the island that were part of the forest conservation program, and they were never able to make the logistics work. I don't know if they're still trying or not. Max, I don't know if you've heard from these guys or not, but
I've heard the same thing, same story you had, that it didn't work. The numbers
yeah,
didn't.
so I don't know what the DNR is going to do about that, and I don't know if this lumber company would be willing to come up for that kind of wood or not. But there's at least to contact someone who's familiar enough with the island and has looked into the logistics that we might be able to get some sort of an answer from someone who's a professional in the field. But Max his contact information is probably in the notes somewhere. I can't remember who he is though.
But I think that if you call Greg, if you want a worst case number, in other words, that the lumber is not worth a dime, but you can call Greg and in 15 minutes, he'll come over and give you a ballpark number. If that's what you want, that's not hard to do. And that's your bottom then. That's okay. Maybe we got an upside, maybe somebody will come in and give us some money, but at least you'll have a bottom line there that this is what it's going to cost to clear the lot. And that's a piece of information that you got, from Greg, who the town contracts to do that. So he knows what he's talking about. We can do that. I mean, that's a phone call. We can get that from Greg. But I'll look in your files for somebody that would be, to me, like an upside, like an offset of whatever costs that Greg might give us. Yeah.
And and the other thing to be decided, and I know in the original concepts that we've been putting out, we were going to leave a lot of those trees standing, the ones closer to Big Bay, so there's privacy and you don't lose the visual impact of driving up that road and seeing the wooded lots. So I don't know how far our development would how many feet of lumber we would have to take at the back of that lot.
Arnie said about 180 trees.
He likes to take down trees, but that's probably a reasonable number.
Yeah, to clear and grub the main road, which is about 180 feet, was $19,000.
That's just where the road was gonna go.
Yep. To clear and grub, the sites, or, to clear and grub for 8 units in addition was another 11,000.
Okay, so
Stumping and
30,000 minimum.
Yeah, and stumping was 5 for the 8 units, and stumping was 15 or 14, so you got 20, 30,
50,000.
about 45, about $50,000, and that isn't including hauling out the brush or the logs.
Yeah. But those are the kind of things we need to know.
Okay.
Then he'd end up burying all the stumps so that you get enough dirt to build up the road. And that's another 8 grand. And for the lots, it would be another 5 grand. So
How many trees did he have in that quantity? About 25, you thought?
so I thought about 180 total, but
180?
I don't know for sure. And these are all rough numbers from Arnie, depending upon how wide we're gonna make the road, what the specs are gonna be.
Should we, sorry. Apparently the fire alarms are going off here in town.
Doc, must be a tornado.
No, nope, not here. It's fire.
Oh, it's the spring tornado season. They're doing random checks.
Yeah,
throughout-
we
yeah.
had that at 1 o'clock today. So
There's another one, but
Anyway.
it's not at 5:30, so.
yeah, 5:36. Okay. Discussion of management model. Max, I saw that you got an email back and I haven't had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, so I was kind of, so she, she offered to meet next week. Which I'll do. I have to be over in Ashland on the 16th. I will meet with her, but I was pushing her for this meeting, like, okay, just give me a first impression. Are we, like you and I talked on the phone, hey, and she wouldn't do that. She said, I don't know how to respond. She's gonna go to the board, get some feedback, but I was trying to get something for you guys for tonight, but I don't have it.
Max, I missed who you're talking with.
So her name is Kathy Beeksma,
Okay,
and she's at the city of Ashland, not the county, City of Ashland Housing Development. And at Katie and Michael's request, I made contact with her, not about the development, but about once it was built out, would they do management, ongoing management? And I mean, she responded. It wasn't like she was ghosted me for asking, but she didn't, she's a direct person. I forget her title, but she's not the board. And so I'm gonna meet with her, talk through it with her, and maybe I'm meeting on the 16th. So, I could get some feedback for you guys after that.
is it okay if I approach them through another director too that I know?
Do you know somebody there?
Yeah, Melissa Nelson.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
no, can't hurt.
So they're the ones who manage the quote unquote high rise in Ashland, right? So that's their public
Correct.
housing in the city. Yeah. So,
And 3 other units.
yeah, but those are outside of Ashland, right? They're in the
No,
county.
those, I think they're in Ashland.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah, any movement is good movement. So let's just keep trying.
I apologize. I was hoping to get you some feedback.
Oh, no,
But
totally fine. This is something, so that's good. And yeah, I was, I think anyone who has a board needs to, they have a tendency to not commit without talking to their board. So Okay. All right.
So then I
We've had-
have an update. I talked with Todd Mandel, who's the director of the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development. He's out of La Crosse, although it's a statewide organization. And I talked with him about both managing rental units and perhaps being a development partner for us. He asked me to send him a bunch of information. I sent him the Maxfield report. I sent him the calculations we have done about different income levels and rent and potential mortgage affordability. I've not heard back from him, but he, again, he didn't say no or anything. He seemed interested and seemed to understand what we were doing. His biggest suggestion is that as quickly as we can, we should come up with a pro forma of our proposed development. He said that'll get people to give you more than just courtesy if they see that all the numbers are together already, even if they don't balance. Because they're used to dealing with numbers that don't balance.
Michael, what's that organization?
It is the Wisconsin Partnership for Housing Development. WPHD.org.
And
Are these
Todd's last name?
Todd is.
Are these from
Mandel.
our connection with the USDA?
No,
Because I haven't replied to that email yet. I was fishing in the Keys, so. All right.
no, I got this reference from someone I knew from the Minnesota Housing Partnership.
All right. Thanks for that.
Nelson, what's her first name?
We're good?
Yep.
You guys have already kind of covered the WIDA conference. Is there something more we need to throw in there other than we might need to talk about quorums? I don't know.
Who's going to attend that so I can? Is
And-
Mark Pat?
and Mark Pass.
Okay.
We'll file for the potential of a quorum. All right. Anything else before I keep
Well,
going?
so should we officially notify the town board that we're not going to have enough information to apply for this grant cycle, and we will continue working with the hopes of applying in the October grant cycle? Is that a fair suggestion?
Fine suggestion too.
Yeah, I sense that because we're so close to the maximum borrowing ability that it's just right now, it's just not the right time to ask them to consider taking on anything to do with borrowing at the moment. Even if it's it'd be nice if we could apply for the small amount, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000, just to do the lot prep and the clearing. I don't know. I have not read that document entirely, and I don't know if that's possible.
So by delaying to October, realistically, will they be any more likely, or is that, I mean,
Yes,
are we
yeah.
speculating?
Yeah, the next 2-3 months is a tough, seasonally, that's a tough area anyway for cash flow. But it's, yes, the fall is better. Right now, the way things are is everybody's like, no, you can't borrow anything, nothing. No, don't even talk about borrowing right now. So, it probably would not pass.
Yeah, well, all right. I guess what we'll do then is make a recommendation to the town board that if indeed we have the opportunity to apply this autumn, if they really are opening it up, is that truly a conclusion, or are they still speculating that they're going to do that, Michael?
It's listed on their website.
Okay, so it's a real thing. Okay. So I will make a motion that we recommend to the town board that we will pursue application in the fall for their grant cycle.
And if they're asking, what would it be used for? Right now, really, I think all that I know is clear is that lot prep needs to be done. So start there. It might be a small loan, but at least that's a small part of it.
I'll second that motion since there
Thanks,
was.
Lois. Yeah, okay. More discussion?
Well, John, I would just say, I mean, we know the road clearing would cover some of the tree removal. I mean, building a road some of that would be covered, I would think. Wells, sewer,
Water.
water, well is
No.
water.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What you're going to run into though is when you punch a well, where are you going to do that? Because we have not yet platted where the buildings are going to be. And there are some hard rules that are going to have to be complied with. And that is a certain number of feet away from the structure.
But we don't need to know that to make a grant application. We just need to know that there are going to be 2 wells.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Totally agree. Yep.
Well, I'd have some reservation of getting the money and doing the road prep, and then us running out of money to go any further. I hate to put a road down on that piece of property and not have it used.
Because the clock would definitely be ticking for the 3 years at that point.
The clock doesn't worry me at all.
Okay,
The ability to get enough money to do the whole thing
well, for
worries
sure.
worries me.
Okay,
It isn't the clock that I have concerns with.
all right.
It's the ability to garner funds.
Mhm.
Well, as I understand, I mean, at this point, we're not going to be asking for any permission until the October grant cycle. So, we have several months to determine how much site prep needs to be done, when it needs to be done. Without worrying about whether we should take the trees down or not take the trees down. I mean, very valid point,
Mhm.
whether we can get money for them or not.
Okay. All right. All in favor of the proposed recommendation to the town board, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? Any objections? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you all very much. All right. Public comment part 2.
If I might, I need to have in my head here kind of a clearer definition of where this is going to. I'm looking at one of our meeting agendas from a couple months back on here. We got apartments, and we're looking at the district on there. What could potentially go in that area? Apartments, dwellings, multi-household, single household, land, road access, things like that. So that got me to thinking on here. Okay, there's many different ways in which you can give people affordable housing, and I'm going to use that term loosely in this discussion up here. In my mind, I think, and I'd like to see the numbers that have been calculated on it, but just asking around the people that are needing housing right now, they seem to be at a maximum cap of about $1,200, $1,300 a month in what they can afford to pay for rent. They could probably go higher during the tourist season, but right now that absolutely would not be possible to go over that. All right, so my first question is, what, you know, if we know a dollar amount that we have to stay within to be affordable, so that these will even work, so that people can actually rent them. Can we back into what we can build as a result of that? Okay, so that's the first question. The second one was, there's different ways in which we can provide people places to live. You can have a pure rental of a space, an apartment, so to speak, or a duplex, or you can have a rent to own, which, you know, we've looked into a little bit, you know, that's done in some other communities where people start off renting. The rent is built up a little bit higher than what it would ordinarily be, so that they, over time, have enough money for down payment that allows them to buy that unit. Then there's also preparing a lot in much the same way that the airport property is. Lots that are there owned by the town, and the tenant comes on with their building that has to be, of course, approved, but the tenant provides the improvements, and the tenant owns those improvements. So what are we looking at?
So John, I think we are trying to figure out, we know what people can afford. We've got pretty good idea of where the income strata are. The way I always try to explain it is, all right, we know what people can afford. What does that mean as far as the cost of a house or cost of a rental unit? And then you go to the other side. So what does it cost to build or purchase a house or a dwelling unit? And then you try to get as close as you can so the gap between those two is as small as possible. And at this point, I mean, we've got some modular options. We're looking at both kind of one story, and now Mark's bringing in a company that does multi-story, from what I understand. So, you know, again, all those things affect the price per unit. And I think we're going to wind up doing what gets us closest to the goal and the affordability.
Do different options? Is it possible that that site is large enough to have a little of each of those options?
I think that's where the management question comes in. We can't build rental unless we have a manager. We can build ownership because in theory, Check Built will come in with the land trust. But we believe that whether it's a straight rental or some sort of rent to own thing, we need to figure out who's going to be managing it. And we don't have that answer yet.
Hold on a second.
I saw Jackie.
Yeah, go ahead.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, and maybe I missed this somewhere, but I am not aware of what that price point is that you guys are talking about, and what people feel is affordable, what can be affordable. And then, oh shoot, what was my other, yeah, the affordable. And then I don't know. I can't. I lost it while I was waiting. Sorry.
Nope.
Maybe I'll think of it. But what is the price point there? Oh, I know what it was. It was the okay. So and then if it's this like rent to own, that seems kind of extreme. Like I thought my understanding was that we were looking at more like this like island workers, that kind of stuff. I'll take my questions off the air. Thanks.
So, right, when we did the survey, and also I think it sort of underscores what John is saying. I mean, we're sort of in that wheelhouse of, you know, the 12, 13, 14, I don't have it in front of me, $1,200 a month rather, for rent or for mortgage.
Okay,
I think,
that was my other thing, was that I don't think that I've seen the survey. Is that something that could be sent out to us?
yeah, I think you could probably still dig it up on the website, but I can send it to you. I'm sorry
Okay.
that you've been.
No,
flying
that's
behind all this
okay.
time.
I mean, I'm new to the committee, so
Yeah,
that
no.
might have been before my time. Yeah, if you could send that out, I'm really curious about the survey.
Yeah, so and then, well, and I mean, it's this sort of the study that was conducted, the formal study that was conducted for when we were putting together the RFP. So a professional came in and, did a population study and all this stuff. So that was a couple of years ago. So I'll send that to you. So I think, though, part of the answer, John, is that, the whole land trust idea is what we're really kind of holding out for. And so the idea that it functions the way the airport functions, then how do you build up wealth? And then how do we keep, and that goes to Michael's point of the management, where we're again sort of building the airplane while we're flying it, for lack of a better metaphor, because we've got to figure out what buildings are going to work in that space with what ownership model as we progress. And, like I said at the start of the meeting, we get a little bit further along each time, and sometimes we lose ground. But I think that overall, we've got an arc of progress, and I think it just will have to play itself out. Will we get money to help build it? Will we not, through a grant? Will we have to come up with other means? It will all influence the decisions, I think.
Yeah, I agree. There's my most recent check, Jackie, that you were asking about the dollar amount there is basically the people who are looking for housing right now that I know personally here on the island, and ask them, say, what is your budget? I'm asking these people that are out there right now looking for housing. Okay, what is your budget? What are your needs? Can you get by with a 1-bedroom, or do you need a 2-bedroom? If you had a 2-bedroom, could you get by with 2-bedroom and 1 bath? Would that work? And the answers to those are pretty much, as I've stated, is it, 1,200 would be ideal. Maybe I could go to 13. Okay, depends upon how much the utility is going to cost. Okay, that's a major point right there. If you have to add on top of that electricity, some fee for water, sewer, internet, things like this, it makes a big difference. But their budget that they're looking at right now is about that $1,300 a month, and that's about it. Okay, so now we'll go back to a discussion that I found very enlightening when Sam was here last year, early on when I first came on in, that in her position with their family and building lots, it was her belief in the community is that it's pretty easy to get a structure built up and rather inexpensive once you have a lot developed and ready to build them.
Yeah.
The expensive part seems to be getting water and sewer and lot clearing and a pad built to put something on it. And then once that's done, it's fast and it's not that expensive to get something built up on it. That's where I was going with this ability of an idea of like we do at the airport. We improve the lots. We provide the area out there. The town does. They own those forever. And then if I wanted to build a hangar out there, I have to go to the town, show them my plans and say, this is what I want to build on there. And they go, okay, sign a lease here. All right. So I sign a lease. I own the building, but I don't own the land under it. I can sell that building if I want to anyone else with permission of the town. Okay. But it goes on. I have ownership of that improvement. So I take pride in it. I'm not just renting it,
Right.
That's exactly how a land trust works.
Right.
Okay,
Almost exactly.
I get that now. Thank you for explaining that. That does make sense. I'm not sure I totally agree with it for this situation, but thank you for the context.
Yeah. And the other thing is that while you can sell your airport hangar to whomever you would like, if we have the land trust management sort of model in place, we can make sure that, you know, someone with a lot of wealth isn't buying something and taking it out of the circulation for somebody who needs it. So,
And that could be done through easements, deed restrictions that are
Right.
put right on that property.
Yep.
That's easy. That's simple. And you could even put on there then too, a certain amount that the resale value could not exceed, say,
right.
2.5% per year, okay? And no
Yeah.
matter what, okay, the market drives that you would not allow it to be sold afterwards. So you could take the legs right out from underneath that very easily. And if you allowed the lots to be there and developed with the infrastructure needed to live and build something else on, then say, for instance, I need a house, okay? So I've got this, the Amish builders down in Chautauqua, Wisconsin, they're gonna build me a 1-bedroom, 1-bath home that they can bring up here in a truck and they're gonna set it on that property, okay? I'll own that piece of that building up there. You own the lot. I'll own the property and I'll take pride and ownership in it because it's mine. Now, if I want to do something later on with it, I can move it off the lot because it's my building, okay? Or I can get approval to sell it. But I think that there should be controls about what it could be sold for so that it doesn't turn into what you described as a way of just churning for the sake of churning property.
So I think I'm going to let Charlie further regale you for what the whole land trust model is, because you've done a really great job of describing it in a lot of ways. So I think we're all kind of on the same page. But
And Charlie can show you the tables and charts and formulas that accomplish
Exactly.
what you just described.
Yeah,
Exactly.
this is true.
Okay.
So
My
people were
church
looking at
bells are
numbers.
ringing.
So
Sorry?
people were looking at numbers. I mean, we've got what people could in theory afford based on their income and what percentage of median that is. And, you know, in general, what we've been trying to do is what we've been calling workforce housing, which common definition is between 60% and 120% of median income. Based on the information we have, that would mean people making between about $38,000 a year and $77,000 a year. That's the range of people that in theory we would be building this housing for. And so, John, you were kicking around the 12 to 1300. That's about 80% of the median income. That's people making a little over $51,000 a year, or a household making over, $51,000 a year. And so, that's kind of the sweet middle. And that means they could afford, $1,200 a month and be under the 30% that everyone says should be what you spend on your housing. So the question is that I'm not a banker. I don't know how you work these formulas of principal and interest and insurance and all this stuff. But our goal is to figure out what kind of house can someone afford a mortgage on if they can pay $1,200 a month?
Precisely.
And that's what I think we're trying to figure out. And, some of these modular models, we're looking at low 200,000 range. But again, you're right. We don't know what the infrastructure cost is going to be. We don't know what the, what you described about Sam describing. And so that's what we're trying to do. We are trying to solve that very basic, but very necessary first 2 or 3 steps.
Okay. Thank you. Good discussion.
Well, thank you.
I think we need to confirm that we're all comfortable with our next second Thursday meeting date and time. It would be in May. Let's see. Let's get us back there.
It'll be May 8th.
Yeah. At 5 o'clock. If that works. And if not, let me know. Okay,
Yep.
good deal. Let's see. I just lost my agenda again. And with that, I guess we can go ahead and I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second. We are hereby adjourned as long as you're all in favor.
Here.
All right. Thank you
See
so
a
much.
few of you in a few weeks.
All
All right.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
I-